Yeah, I saw some show like about that, Canadians trying to visit Americans during COVID, and I don't
Yeah.
think it was that park, but it was like another park where the border ran right through the middle of it, and they
Yeah.
had people like sitting in lawn chairs on each side of the line, and like actually had border patrol people there watching,
Yeah.
and they would like let you cross over like real quick to like hug somebody, but they
Yeah.
would like tell you like you're breaking the law and like I've got my eye on you, basically. Like,
It's so weird. It's surreal being like I've been thinking about how weird it is to live next to an international border. It is really weird. It's a straight.
Like,
It's a.
it's not
This is
like it's just a line. Like it's a right. There's no
yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
natural. There's
No.
not a river or anything that separates it,
Nope.
right?
It's just these cement buildings with people that are fully militarized just standing there, and they're just looking for some. They're bored. I mean, that's what they're just fucking bored. And that's it. It's completely made up. And I don't know, it's just weird. It's just a trip. Anyway, I don't know. It's yeah, anyway, sorry. I don't even know. It's just a weird thing. And I was thinking, Colin, when you said the thing about people like sitting across from each other in lawn chairs, I was thinking, wouldn't it be fun to play like tennis or something at like hit the ball across, to like play pickleball or something, you know? I think Mike could get in on
Now
that.
we're talking.
now you got Mike's
I knew
attention.
it was gonna come to pickleball sooner or later. I was just waiting for it.
As my wife says, it all comes back to pickleball.
Gotta say, Mike, ever since like I didn't really know anything about it, but like ever since you got into it, like I see it everywhere. Like when I was in California,
totally.
I saw like the Venice Pickleball Club, the San Diego Pickleball Club. My wife watches this Sunday morning show on CBS called Sunday Morning. I think it's actually.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, do you see that? They had a whole thing on like pickleball, like it originated in Bainbridge Island, I think, in Seattle.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. And I think in the 60s, or maybe it was later than that, but
1965.
65, yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's been around. Wow, that's
well,
quite a long time.
I mean, Mike has become something of a pickleball influencer.
I'm starting to get free things now, which is really nice.
Damn, see, that's what it's about.
That's all I did it for. I just wanted free gear, and I finally got some paddles and some balls. I'm like, all right, hey, it's starting to work. Now I quit.
Are you sponsored? Are there like big pickleball?
No, that's
companies?
sort of the ultimate goal, is to get a paddle sponsor. And then I want to play tournaments, so you can play. I guess what they would call it currently. I think they're going to change the wording, but you can play senior pro, which is 50 plus, and you win money. I mean, these guys travel. They probably play 15 to 20 tournaments a year around the country, and it's a small group of people that generally are in the winning each week, but they all have paddle sponsors. I'm not sure what's covered for their travel or their lodging, but my guess is some of it, because they're there every weekend, and I think if you win a tournament at that level, you're probably winning, I don't know, $1,500 or something, and they pay out the third, which is probably like something like, I don't know, a few hundred. Mm-hmm. But I'd like to play. I think I could get to the point where I could probably play singles at that level if I keep doing what I'm doing. Doubles that's a game that takes a very long time to get to know well. It's very nuanced. It looks pretty basic, but there's a lot of little things you need to know, and you got to play people at that level for a long time. Whereas singles is a lot more just like sort of short tennis. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, it'd be cool to get a paddle sponsor and get to go to some tournaments and not have to pay for the full boat, but we'll see.
Who are the sponsors for pickleball? Is it like companies that manufacture it, or is it like
for the tours, companies like Lexus and stuff like that are the national sponsors. They got their first national broadcast live on CBS a few weeks back. So it's starting to go. What's happening is there's a big influx of former tennis players or tennis players who played pro tennis, but not at the highest level. Like there was a girl playing today. She was ranked like 250 in the world at one point. But, you put 250 in the world at tennis is pretty good. And so you walk into the sport, and there's not, at the singles level, there's not a high learning curve, because you already have the ground strokes and the court's smaller. So it's a really, the influx of tennis players is really kind of where it's headed at this point, because they just have all the training really for the ground strokes and things like that. It takes them a little longer, like I said, to learn doubles because it's a lot more kind of shot making and short shots and stuff like that. But eventually, obviously, they get it. So it's going to be interesting to see where it is, if this holds together for another couple of years. But, it's a sport based on petroleum. So who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, maybe Serena will be a pickleball.
Oh, yeah, she would watch. I mean, honestly, if she decided, she'd have a little, it'd take her some time to get the doubles game down just for the little, the shots and stuff, because it's more of a dinking game and back and forth. But fuck, she'd walk in right now and just dominate in singles. I mean, the number one woman in the world is a 15-year-old girl. And she's great. But this other woman who's 24 who played pro tennis just started playing like last fall, and she played her and she beat her. So it's, that's kind of where it's headed, I think.
I could see what you mean though. Like I remember playing in high school. One of the girls in my class was the best tennis player like in the school, and she just killed everybody in pickleball. No one could match her at all. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's just all that muscle memory they have. So hitting balls for years.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of pickleball until you got into it, but I have kind of a friend of a friend who belongs to a field club. Someplace that I can't even afford to walk by. But he was talking about platform tennis. Is that the same thing, or is it?
No, it's a little different. It's that's played generally. Well, there's a couple games. There's paddle. There's platform tennis. There's this other sort of tennis. Some of them are played with a tennis ball that has low pressure, so it doesn't travel as far. And there's a game where they play with a regular tennis racket and a low pressurized tennis ball. Then there's another game where they play with a low pressurized tennis ball, but a paddle. Then there's another game where they play with tennis rackets and stuff, but there's glass walls that they can bounce it off of. So it's sort of like racquetball meets tennis. And there's a ton of paddle sports out there and racket sports. And they're all sort of goofy.
There was like growing up, my dad owned some athletic clubs, and racquetball was like a huge thing. So like I grew up playing racquetball.
Yeah.
Say that again? Was that it, Bill?
It was huge back in the day. I maybe it was up before your time, but it was like I remember like early 80s.
Early 80s was huge.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I grew up in a resort community. Like I couldn't afford to be these things, but like we always found ways to kind of sneak into pools and things. But we used to play racquetball. We were kids, and it's intense, man. It's intense.
Oh yeah, that's a fucking scary game if you don't know what you're doing either. You can get hurt.
You get hurt. I mean, it requires a lot of stamina.
I remember being at an LA Fitness on like an elliptical, watching guys play racquetball, and then an ambulance coming and taking a guy out because another guy clocked him with a racket. They're playing doubles. 4 guys in a freaking little tiny cell whacking a rubber ball 100 miles.
Dude, that shit is so fast. Like, I don't think you realize how fast you can smack that ball. And you're in this like enclosed space. So it's just like, my dad would play. He would play in tournaments, and he had a wicked, I don't know, he had this special thing he did. He would hit it right in the corner, and it would hit, and it was just like really hard to like get, I don't know. It was the whole thing, man. It was high level athleticism. Yeah. It was pretty wicked. Yeah.
Yeah. Early 80s, my dad and my parents and all their friends like all played racquetball. It was like it's a thing to do.
Yeah.
Attack! And Dethrone!
Godcast! So when are we going to begin our memorial to the Queen?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm really glad today we planned this.
I never really understood how Americans are so obsessed with it, other than it's just a part of celebrity culture. I had, and I'm always surprised by this. I had a friend who, like, I know her. She lives in my town. I'm not like really close to her. I don't see her that often, but I see her on Facebook, and she was telling me today that like she was in tears. Like in tears crying. Like, and I'm like, Like, really? Like,
The richest people on earth died.
I know, like she didn't like. I mean, I guess she was, as far as queens of a bloodthirsty empire go, she was probably a lovely person, but like, she didn't know her. It wasn't like her great aunt or something. Like,
she was a precious symbol.
I think Americans are obsessed with rich people.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
Down to it's like I want to know. They're obsessed with what they own, how expensive it is. I mean, there's all these shows on that kind of crap.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they have this kind of house with these many rooms and it costs this much money. She's like you said, she's like a celebrity. She's not like a politician per se. She's not looked at that way, even though, of course, we know the history of the royal family, but she's looked at like a celebrity.
She's a tourist queen.
Well, it's even weirder because if people are so happy about being like they're patriotic about being a U.S. American, the whole thing about it is that we had a revolution to get away from monarchies, right? Like the whole idea is like, fuck the king, fuck the queen. We're going to elect our leaders. We have a democracy or whatever. I mean, it is weird. I think this fixation is particularly on, like, we don't do this with like the queen and king of Spain or whatever, any other country that still have intact monarchies, and
it's like one thing when they have like a royal wedding, like I get people want to watch that because it's like a big spectacle and you can see how I don't know how the other side lives or whatever, but I don't, who really cares about the queen? I don't know. My wife's Irish, so she's thrilled. So,
the Irish are the funniest when it comes to shitting on the British. And
rightly so.
And rightly so. I mean, it's because, and you know why? Like, you have to,
because there's no forests anymore besides everything else.
Oh, and then you like you just learn the history of Ireland and what the British did to the Irish over hundreds and hundreds of years. You're like, you can shit on the Queen. That's the least you can do. That's
when I first started dating her, I went on like a real deep dive into like Irish history, and like I already knew the rough outline, but really getting into the details, I'm just like, okay, yeah, you're right. They are. Fuck the British. Like, I wish they actually would have bombed Parliament successfully.
I know, bummer.
I know, all these failed revolutions.
Getting mortars right down there and shooting them over the fence isn't nothing.
No, you're right. That's more than I've done.
Yeah. Anyway, it is weird. I don't know. I mean, I do think it is. It's. I think the British family, the British royal family, it's very much a part of celebrity culture now. It's not even. They don't have any real function as far as I know, right? Like
tourism, basically, is really I think what it's about at this point.
Yeah, I mean, like, do they have any sort of political power? Do they make any decisions that have any effects?
I think it's just like kind of advisory. Like the prime minister will go talk to the queen, or I guess it will be the king now, and like. They can tell the prime minister like that's a bad idea, don't do it, but it has no other than just the queen saying it to you, it's not really like binding or anything.
And if I remember correctly too, like when you read those series of books from Gerald Horne where he's talking about the times that we went and colonized the Americas, I mean, a lot of it was these people saw that they could make money and they're like, I want to come over here and make money. I can't. If there's a monarchy, I can't make the kind of money I want to make. I want to get some of your money. So I'm going to go do this over here. Or I'm going to, they'd like circumvent what some of the laws were and be like, we're going to create our own laws so we can be, heads of companies and make money. It was like, that was how capitalism started rolling.
We'll just call it freedom.
We had actual, there was free land here when
quote free land
everything on the island of England is the royal family if it's not owned by somebody else. So
that's a big part of their function now is they own all the land, they everything from housing like projects or estates as they call them there, like it's all like royal family divvied out. So like it's kind of a weird. I mean, I guess we kind of have that here because technically everything's owned by the federal government, but it's, I don't know, there's much more diversity, I suppose, but there it's much more direct, I suppose, and that's kind of their function. But yeah, I think it's tourism. That's what I got a friend from the UK, and he says everybody, all my friends in the UK say like no one gives a fuck about the royal family there, unless you're like a 65-year-old like housewife or something. Like nobody cares about it. But it's big tourism, and I get it. Like they, the way Americans just get so emotionally invested. I mean, I remember my mom's friends getting up at like 4 a.m. to watch Princess Diana, her funeral procession. It's like,
yeah, that shit sustained the National Enquirer for like 10 years. Like, just Princess Diana by herself.
I know, worst car crash ever.
And then, I mean, they were saying on the radio today that like all the British embassies are getting mobbed by like Americans wanting to pay their respects, and I'm just like, it's like, didn't we fight a war so that we didn't have to pay respects to the royal family?
I think U.S. tourists are like some of the worst people in the world. There's some like
pretty much all of us.
Yeah, right. But the ones that can afford to like, we're gonna go to England, we're gonna see all the sights, we're gonna see Big Ben, we're gonna go see the palace, we're gonna, those people are awful.
And it makes sense that we're kind of connected to England that way, because people in Europe will tell you like British are the worst tourists to have come to your country. So we are.
I mean, we are kind of. The U.S. is a child of the British Empire, so it's understandable that we got our shittiness from somewhere, right? I mean,
the sun never sets.
But it's true. Like I just think about what Rob said about Gerald Horne's books. That book, The Counter-Revolution of 1776. I didn't read it, but I understood the premise based on interviews and stuff. Correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, but the idea was that the revolution in 1776, of course, was to, start our own country, offshoot of the British Empire, but it was because the British were moving in a direction to abolish slavery in some form or another. Like that was the trajectory. And the wealthy landowners in the U.S., like George Washington and all the founding fathers, they were like, that's not good for us. We derive all of our capital and wealth from our slaves. So, fuck this. So, in great part, the revolution was sparked because of that kind of that trend of abolition, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, he in that book, he traces the different events where you see them starting to move towards abolition, and you start to see how it wraps up tensions here. That people want to revolt because of it. So he does a great job of showing those parallels and showing that that's a big motivating factor for it.
Yeah.
I think there was an article, it was in a Black Agenda report. And it might have been about that book, but it was definitely about the counter-revolution. I remember reading it this year around the 4th. And they mentioned that. They also, I think there was something to do with also their trying to normalize like relationships with the indigenous, and to stop expansion west of, I think, the Ohio Valley or something, which again, the colonists did not want anything to do with that. So there's like there was more to the revolution than just angry white people over tea.
Taxes.
Yeah. Of which I heard I heard the taxes in the colonies were actually relatively low compared to other colonies.
Yeah, that's some bullshit. Yeah.
Well, this kind of I want to bring pickleball into this, because Mike did a video about whether pickleball can save America.
So that was an article in the New Yorker. Was that somebody asked that question? One of the rich guys that owns a pickleball tour, he's, can pickleball save America? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, what America are you talking about? First of all, if pickleball was going to save America, I'd quit pickleball.
Oh, right. Yeah.
This shit doesn't need to be saved. But it is. I'll tell you though, I don't know if you saw the video I did on it, but it is an odd thing. Like it's most of the people I play with, I shouldn't say most, a fair amount of people I play with, I would never seek out, hang out with, mainly because I can sort of just spend enough time with people, you can kind of see how they view the world a little bit. But it's a place where, and I played in a bunch of different cities and a bunch of different groups, and it's just really about pickleball. And usually people ask, the number one question is, how did you start? And I could tell people, I'm playing with somebody who's probably voted for Trump and somebody who's doing this and somebody who's doing that. So that way it's a little like going back to the time period, if there was such a thing, where we didn't talk about politics and religion. Mm-hmm. We just, did our little, whatever activity. So yeah, in some sense it's refreshing because it's like, oh, I don't have to go here and represent whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was wondering
I just hit you.
I was wondering what the premise of that article was, but so it was just to like heal the division and bring us back to
I think it was mainly about how,
or whatever. Like
nothing's actually, it seems like everything's dividing us, and this goofy little sport is actually just sort of taking hold of some groups of people who probably normally wouldn't hang around each other. Because it's a sport that generally started with people who live in retirement communities. So a bunch of old white people who can afford to live in retirement communities. But now as it's blowing up, it's starting to expand out. Like I just interviewed a guy who is doing basically what the PGA Tour did with the first tee, trying to get kids and people who don't have access to equipment to take up the sport. And so that's something he's trying to spread. And he took the model of the PGA Tour's first tee program and he put it into pickleball. So it's expanding in that way. There's a lot more young people jumping in, a lot more people who probably, wouldn't play a traditional, kind of country club sport, although it's just such a stupid little game. It's just like whacking a wiffle ball with a paddle. So I have to remind myself of that, every so often when I start to care.
Well, I mean, we need to get rid of the golf courses anyway. So
we do. And this is a much cheaper sport. I mean, a bunch of wiffle balls, and you can play basically with some sort of, even a wood paddle, and some sort of, you can play on a tennis court, really.
I just wonder if he writes that article, you see something that's more of a communal thing spreading, because there's really none of that here anymore. So all of a sudden you leap to this big conclusion, and really it's just a problem. I mean, before we had all this technology, we were doing gatherings as communities and for a variety of different reasons. And I feel like it's just not happening as much anymore.
Right. And it's a big money grab right now anyways. There is a communal aspect to it, which I really like. It's a very social game because you're really playing on a very small court. It's half the size of a tennis court. So you're in close proximity, and you're usually playing doubles. So there's 3 other people on the court. So there's a lot of chatter and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, this is a sport that's really starting to just skyrocket. So everybody's going for the money grab, including yours truly, because I want some free shit. But, there's 3 pro tours. There's these, and all these guys are like billionaires that own these tours. And so they're trying to get the best players and sign them to contracts. And paddle prices have gone from 2 years ago, a paddle for like $100 was insane. And now you can buy paddles up to like $350. It's a fucking paddle.
Is it like carbon fiber at least?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's all this space age bullshit technology.
Does it matter? Does it matter? Does it affect
here's the
game?
Thing. Here's the thing. So I got this beginner set company sent me a beginner set paddle and ball set. It's like a $60 thing. You get like 2 paddles, something you would buy at like Walmart, 2 balls, something to re-grip your paddle, and some of those towels that you can use over and over. Anyways, the paddle quality is pretty good because the other end has gone up so high. But I was just saying this to somebody the other day. There were 2 pro guys. This is probably 6 months to a year ago, that played 2 guys that were probably about my level, which is kind of mid-range. And the 2 pros played with cutting boards. No handles on the cutting board, just a board. And they smoked those 2 guys. So that's what I'm saying. Everybody gets it's like golf. They get so into the equipment. But if you don't have the technique, it doesn't matter. You could beat a guy with a cutting board, is what I'm saying, if you know what you're doing. So
I think there's a valuable lesson because you can extend this to anything, right? Because I think we all kind of get into these little hobbies and they can blow up into something bigger, right? I mean, it could become a career, but like we get fixated on the buying of things. Like I want the best pickleball paddle. I want the best and when it ultimately comes down to is like practicing and playing with other people that can give you some, it just comes down to gaining experience and developing skill sets. And I fall into this trap of just like, I don't know, you can do with anything. Like I do that with podcasting. Like you don't need much. You just need you can use your phone for fuck's sake. And if it's a good, if you're engaging and interesting to listen to and you know how to talk to people, if that's what you want to do with it, then that's all you really need. Obviously step up to better equipment when it's right. But, I see people
I'm filming my videos on this iPad and it's sitting on a rusty folding chair.
Yeah. You look
it's propped up with a board.
You're very I'm impressed with you because I see my exposure to you has been through the podcast, the radio show podcast thing you did, and some of your essays and stuff, your book, and then our conversations. And you're just riffing and just, and then this is just I don't know, you sound like a sports announcer. You're just, this other side of you comes out and I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? Mike,
he definitely have a very
not
photogenic speaker voice. It definitely.
I love this too because
it's my brand, guys.
I love it. I just want to comment on it. I just love it.
Well, my buddy comments every fucking week. If you just look at any of my videos, the guy that always comments is named JJ Dabs, and all he does is a guy sit around and get stoned with, every once in a while. All he does is take what I say, regurgitates it, and then makes it sound dumb. It makes me sound dumb, and I'm like, thanks, buddy. So I read his comments every week to my wife in his voice. She's like, "Oh, I never watched your channel, but I love JJ's comments."
Oh my god, I need to comment.
It's a nice reminder, though, Mike, because I learned a lot from you. Where it's yeah, we're fucked. There's no doubt we're fucked, and we've seen it more and more every day, right? But it's I got a life to live. What am I going to do about this? Let's go. Yeah. I see you living your life and enjoying it, and that's okay because some people that get into that mind frame can't do that. They think it's wrong and shame people for doing that, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
thank you.
I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's and I think we can all say this. Everybody sitting here, we're all on record. There's any doubt about what we think or thought or what's going on, we are clearly on record. So if any one of us want to just go, okay, I don't really need to say anymore, there's boatloads of stuff I've said, written, all of us, podcasts, books, essays, interviews, you name it. We are on record. And for me at that point, I'm like, I don't have much more to say about this. It's kind of unwinding in front of us. I guess every once in a while, any one of us could pop in for the rest of them and go, hey, fucking told you so. But, we can just assign each other that role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you see this a lot, in the media landscape. These people, they have to constantly get more content. They have to constantly comment on things, and then they've got to keep pushing the edge. And they find a niche, so then that's their thing, and then they have to go after it, and it's just exhausting. And I just I've reached my saturation with it, where it's I just can't take it anymore.
I know. Yeah.
I could get in trouble by saying this, but the ultimate of it is Caitlin Johnstone. I mean, it's there's something in the news. Oh my gosh, I gotta knock out this article and react. I can't even think. I just need to react. I need to stay relevant. I need those patrons coming. I need that $48,000, or whatever it was. It was $4,000 a month. I saw she had on Patreon. I need that coming. And if I don't stay relevant, I'm going to drop, and I'm going to be, I got to keep staying relevant. It's more for her about the clicks than it's about the content and ethics and credibility. And
did you see that article that Ken just did about her? He made
Ken
some
Orphan
comment about her, and she went after him.
She called him a simp of empire or something stupid like that.
And that's what's hilarious. She's never been to the United States a day in her life, but she will tell you how it is and how things are here. It's like, oh yeah, just because you have a husband that used to live here, give me a break.
I think her husband's American. Yeah.
Well, that's the grift,
that's not
right?
Cred for me.
Well, it's such a weird thing because like I had Eric Draitser on like when the Russian invasion of Ukraine started and we talked about it. I mean, he's really clear in his analysis. He's like, yeah, NATO's involved. Like obviously the US is complicit in the escalation of like there's it's a complex geopolitical situation, but nonetheless, Russia invaded a country and they're trying to take it over and they're trying to steal their resources and they believe they like have dominion over that region because it's like a part of the Russian Empire as it was like hundreds of years ago. Not even the Soviet era, like pre-Soviet, right? Like the Tsar and his shit.
It's a long, complicated history.
Yeah, it's complicated. And then you have people like John Stone and I don't know who the fuck, Aaron Mate and Glenn Greenwald, Max Blumenthal. I don't know. There's a whole list of these people, and they just are on the everything is the U.S. And if another empire steps in to try to claim territory and resources, they're not the bad guys in that situation.
No.
And it's weird because it's like, the world's complicated. The U.S. sucks. But it's not even the center of things anymore. It's losing its role as the central force, in the world, I guess. And so, we're seeing other players step in, and they're also oppressive. They're also, they're also imperialists. They also have fascist tendencies. Like it's not just the U.S. Like
Putin literally kind of wanting to, originally people claimed that he wanted to go back to kind of the Soviet times and bring back that image of Russia.
Yeah,
but
he's not a communist.
But he's really going beyond that, to your right, to like the Tsar.
It's just being contrarian for contrarian's sake almost. Like I'll pick the contrarian view and then it spills over into all these other things. I mean, how many times have we seen people that we thought like followed science and then, the contrarian of the Rona, and it's like, I'm going to go the contrarian side.
No, yeah. Well, it's just we can say in a broader way that when these big these big events happen like this that are like global in scope, it really fucks with people's minds, right? I mean, it really it's hard to map that and make sense of it, I think. And so I don't know.
I think it was a service. I think COVID did a service, at least in the doomosphere. It just unmasked all the shit around you that you're like, holy cow, okay, this is a little more clear. I don't need all these people in my life.
Right.
There's a bunch of nutballs here.
Absolutely. I was saying that along too. Yeah, definitely people's true colors really came through in that. And a little bit of Stop the Steal too. I used to follow I mean, not that I wasn't really aligned with his politics, but Kunstler. James Howard Kunstler, because he claps and all that. And he just went just dove right into it. It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. I was like, come on, I thought you were had some analytical capabilities. And it was the night of the election. He didn't even wait for things to settle before he wrote. So I kept waiting. He writes a weekly article. I kept for 3 weeks, keep thinking oh, surely he's got to come out and with some kind of hey, I got this wrong. No, they always never do that. They just, move on to the next thing and hope people forget.
It's just the problem I see if you're looking at it from a left-right perspective. The right controls the story. They control how they word things. Right. They control the language, which I think is so important, and the messaging. The left reacts to it. The left then adopts their language and coding, right? We don't come up with our own. It's such a problem. It just gets frustrating.
Yeah. I remember reading The Long Emergency, Kunstler, and I remember reading some things in there, and I can't remember specifically, but they had some sort of racial undertones to them. And I was like, I agree with a lot what this guy's saying, but I'm like, I feel this sort of angry old white guy, I don't remember if this was said, but quit sagging your pants and pull them up type shit, And I was like, yeah, he's one of these guys. So I've always kind of kept him at a little bit at distance since then. I was like, yeah, I like what he says, but I think he's a kind of a racist.
And a total sexist too.
Yeah.
I kind of feel the same thing. It was like the cracks were starting to show over the years. And then I was like, yeah. And then, like I said, these events happened. If COVID, like we talked about, it was a huge one. Stop the Steal, I think, was smaller than that. But, these events happen. And then it's just like, oh, all right. I see. Right. I see where you're really at here. Like, all the misanthropes really
Who is it? Maybe we don't have to name names, but we can. I'd like to do that. Who is the biggest surprise in our circles that you just went, really? You? On any of that shit? Like, I'm trying to think, because there were some big ones, but I was like, where I went, whoa.
With COVID? Like
any of them, like any of the things that have happened in the last few years where, people have just kind of fractured off and they just, you go like, you lost your fucking mind.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely, with Kunstler and Stop the Steal, it was really surprising. Like, I always knew he was a conservative, but he seemed like a reasonable conservative. I didn't know he kind of bought some valid points sometimes, and I was like, all right. Usually it was mostly collapse related things,
right.
Like I followed him on. And it was just to see him go so headlong into it.
Yeah.
It was just, embarrassing. And I kept giving the benefit of the doubt. It's like, well, maybe he called this too soon, maybe this and that. And
right.
I think it's a toxic trait of mine where I kind of give people like more space than they need, like I should cut some people off a long time ago, but like I'm getting better about that now. I'm being like, that's it. I can't
do this
now or whatever. But like,
right.
Yeah.
I gotta say, for me recently, I mean, I haven't really been paying as much attention to it as I normally would, but in a way, Glenn Greenwald, I always kind of thought he was a libertarian, but then to see him actually like kiss the ass of Alex Jones, literally, is just unbelievable to me. Like that kind of turn. I saw where he had this documentary done about him. It was on the Media Roots podcast, if you listen to it, and they play excerpts of the kind of softball questions and the compliments that Greenwald was giving Alex Jones at that premiere. Like the questions, I was like blown away. I thought I was like in the Twilight Zone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That is a very bizarre one for me too.
And like I think Matt Taibbi too was I mean,
yeah.
I used to read both of them. I think when they were both on Salon back in the day, and kind of appreciated both their articles, but they both kind of lost their minds at similar times.
I used to write for Rolling Stone. I used to read Taibbi's when he was a Rolling Stone writer. It's just I think Forrest is really like struggling here to.
I think Forrest, he's here.
He just fell down the stairs.
I can hear you.
We can hear you.
Yeah, can't see you.
All right, man. Don't worry.
It's just rustling around in the dark. It's like all I can see right now.
How unprofessional.
Really it is. I cannot lie. I can't talk shit.
Okay.
I'm going to my other computer. Hold on.
All right.
Yeah, because I want to hear about Forrest is overcoming COVID, and I want to hear about his experiment with no air conditioning in the summer in fucking Houston.
Jesus.
Are we all ready
for Forrest?
Are all us West Coast guys ready for our next heat wave here?
Oh God. I need summer to end and mosquitoes to go away. It's been a tough summer here. It's been, we got the river here had the highest crest since 1942. It went to a 15-foot crest, and it probably took half an acre off the property I live on, and it's quickly approaching our community kitchen. It's just keeps cutting into this bank, and we have an irrigation ditch between the kitchen and the river, and the river is about 8 feet from the irrigation ditch. In fact, the head gate, big cement piece, is hanging off the cliff towards the river. So this it's probably a 20-year event that just happened here. And man, it took some serious trees downriver too. So I'm like, well, I'm ready for we had a really long monsoon, which we never have. It was a 2-month monsoon. And then right at the end, it dumped on us, and all this water came down from the mountains and just knocked out a bridge on the major highway here, so we couldn't even go to the only town we could get to for a few days. And so I'm like, oh, do I have to move eventually? Shit.
There he is. There's the man.
There it is.
His audio's not working though.
No.
Oh, he's connecting right now. Let's see. Hey, Forrest.
Oh,
Can you hear me? Can you speak? You gonna say something?
I saw 2 thumbs up.
Hold up.
There you are.
I remember my
fucking
first
works at-
podcast.
guy fucking works at NASA and can't get this
I
shit
know.
together.
I remember he's a fucking engineer. Guy's a goddamn engineer, and he's fumbling around in the fucking dark.
Boris, how are you, Forrest?
He still hasn't have it.
You can't hear us. Can you hear
God
us?
damn it.
I just can't be happy, man. Just can't be happy.
Oh, I
This
can
guy's
hear you
fired.
now.
Ah, shit.
Oh my goodness. We'll get it. We'll get it together. It'll happen. It's gonna happen.
One of these days.
I don't want to fire our only black guy, but I'm getting close.
Oh no.
Mike's
To get rid of
canceled.
our diversity in one fell swoop.
Oh
It's
my
gonna fuck our
god.
whole quota up.
Okay,
It
he's-
is.
let's see. We might have 2 Forests here. Let's see. We got a Forrest.
Oh,
This-
Christ.
Oh,
This
this
is
Oh,
is
a-
cheating the quota system, huh?
yeah, right.
Like,
Hey, that's Forrest too.
All right.
Hey,
My computers are fucking up. Shit. Damn.
I think-
Oh, there I am.
Now there's 2 of them.
wait, there's
yeah.
2 of you.
literally 2.
So one of them's got a mute. Let me see.
I can't get high enough.
Get it. We'll get it. I almost bought weed today.
So I bought this thing
Go.
like a month ago, over a month now. I'm like, holy shit. And I smoke this thing a lot,
Mhm.
but it's a double. So it was like $60 or something. I'm like, holy shit. But oh my God, it's lasted forever. I mean, that's a pretty good deal.
Is it
For
a
a pen.
What is it? A pen?
Yeah, it's just a little pen of it's a throwaway. This will be in a landfill soon, no worries. Oh no, it's made out of willow. It's fine. It's Blue Dream, and I just bought it. I was in Las Cruces, and there was a dispensary, and then there was a Buffalo Hot Wings right next door. So I was like, whoa.
Yeah, it's still expensive in New York. It's like it's only medical here now.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's the legislature did approve recreational, but New York is gonna just do it fucked up. Like New York just can't do anything.
Oh,
right.
That's what I'm from Wisconsin, so I went back this summer. My parents moved back, and I spent a month there. And I was at a wedding, and I pulled out a doobie. People are smoking. You would have thought I was Jesus Christ, like because there's no medical there. There's no rec. There's it's like back in time there. So people are like, oh, can I just smell it? I'm like,
My God.
you want a toke? No, man, I have a job. I'm like, well, have they tested you ever? No. How long you worked there? 40 years. I'm like, okay, you are trained well.
Yeah. It was so
Man,
weird.
I
Like,
could sell a shitload of weed in this state.
yeah,
Oh,
when Connecticut legalized medical, it was so weird because like you would go into the dispensaries and they rename all the strains. So they're not any strains you've ever heard of. They give them like pharmaceutical sounding names.
Yeah.
And so like you can, I guess it only applies to that dispensary maybe or to Connecticut. Cause I think they only have like 5 dispensaries in the state. It's like very regulated.
Well, most of the dispensaries
Yeah.
I've been in, not all of them, but probably 90% of them feel like a clinic.
Yeah.
And I prefer that head shop sort of feel, but they all feel like a fucking white gloves. They all feel very sterile.
Yeah.
The ones in Oregon,
it
or at least the
depends.
ones I go to, have gotten rid of that feeling. The main
Yeah.
one by my house is totally like a head shop. It's
Yeah, when I was in California, it's more like a head shop.
Yeah.
Here, it's kind of weird. It's like the atmosphere is kind of like an Apple store, right? It's like
Yeah.
clean and sterile, but like kind of hippish.
I
they
mean,
have,
look
like,
at this
lounge
thing.
chairs.
Look at this thing. It's beautiful. I mean, it feels
Yeah.
good in your hand. It's pretty
Yeah, it
slick.
looks cool.
Great in a wind tunnel.
Yeah,
There is there's a dispensary nearby called Dank of America. And I didn't want to go just because of the name. I just was like, well, that's very clever.
Good name.
Yeah, Dink of America.
If you could make it like a dispensary pickleball, you could call it Dink and Dank.
The best name I saw, there's one in Queens called The Coffee Shop, Coughy.
Yeah, nice.
There's one in Eugene called Space Buds, and they actually the bud tenders recently unionized. To fight the owners, because a lot of the dispensaries are actually owned by people out of state, even in New York in some cases. Just big rich people that are like, this is the new $1 billion industry, so I gotta get invested in that on the ground floor.
How
do stoners organize?
Yeah,
I don't know. They did.
John Boehner.
Hey man, we should do
all
something.
over, and John Boehner was talking about getting involved in it a couple years ago, and I was like,
oh right.
You know what? I bet there's some rich Mormons that are starting dispensaries and getting shit tons of money too, because Mormons
not getting high on their own supply.
No, there were like I remember as a kid growing up, and my dad we would have to go to Jackpot, Nevada, right? It's like this little town on the border of Idaho, and it's like a casino town. It's a shitty little town. But they had a little like congregation of Mormons there. They had church. So we'd go, and like one of the leaders in that ward owned a casino. And he just he ran
was in hell.
He made me as a millionaire. Yeah. And he was just like
the queen.
Like, how do you reconcile that, man? How do you do that, my dude? And it's just it's just a business. I don't do it. I don't drink. I don't gamble. I'm like,
it's just like the mafia. It's just business.
It's just business, man. It's just whatever.
It's like that's the personal.
It's just taking profit off of people. So, just like anything else.
It's okay to make money off the sinners, but you can't sin. It's different.
Right.
Correct.
It's very different. Yeah. Well, I think Forrest is here as far as being able to speak and is connected. Forrest, you were infected with the plague recently. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good now. Good now.
Okay, good.
If anybody says that it's not real, fuck them.
I think it's almost impossible now for the people that say it's not real to say it's not real, because there have literally been hundreds of millions, if not billions of people that have gotten it at least once at this point. So
yeah, but do you know any of them?
I know a lot.
I know, right?
I know so many people who have gotten it
too. I'm the only one who doesn't get it. Like everybody else I know has gotten it. I'm like,
I haven't gotten it either,
but
because
I so far knock on wood, but
I'm like super like I wear a fucking respirator at work. I'm that guy, I'm the one that looks like I'm going into a factory to go to a fucking college and work with people. So
shit, you were smart. Fuck that. I mean,
yeah,
they had me down for about 2 weeks.
Yep.
And then I made the mistake. I didn't mess up because I was feeling myself. So now I ran on a Saturday, but I just crashed on Sunday. Right.
Yeah.
And then it kind of like had a, kickback effect on me. So that was pretty bad. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm just going easy now. I'm not running. I'm not doing anything right now. I'm just going to chill out. I'll probably be like another week before I do anything. Because that's the thing that it killed my energy level. I was just sleeping. I was like, I just had no energy. And then I felt weak. And I had, what do you call it? Post-nasal drip, sore throat.
Mm-hmm.
Not much sneezing, but I was just congested. I could feel like the buildup of mucus in my body, like in my throat, in my nose, and I just couldn't get rid of it. I guess it's my body finding out the infection, but I was like, man, it was hard to sleep constantly or consistently. So I sleep for like 2 hours, then I wake up coughing, hacking and things like that. Then I go down, lay down like 30 minutes, then I fall back asleep and I have to get up. So it was intermittent as far as my sleep was concerned, right? But I was sleeping a lot, just in intervals, like 2-3 hour intervals. I had to get up. So, no, I'm feeling good now. But it was definitely unlike the flu or any flu that I've had, right? So, because I've never been that lacking of energy before. Even when I've had flus and things of that nature. So, but then I was thinking like, the way I look at it is that, hey man, if I didn't have the vaccine, of course, it could have been much worse.
And the ivermectin, of course.
Oh yeah, I went right by the veterinarian, the vet got me some of that with a quick, man. Oh yeah. Hydroxychloroquine. What else is it? Zinc.
Monoclonal
I had me some zinc. I had some zinc, so I was good to go.
You got on the Joe Rogan protocol, basically.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The Aaron Rodgers
mine
protocol.
is the cheap one. I don't have no $5,000 or I mean $15,000 to throw around like old Joe, right? So
You're immunized.
Kettlebells, bottle ropes, and
there you go.
ivermectin.
That's Aaron Rodgers right there, boy.
Fucking, that guy is the biggest douche.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I'm gonna punch that guy right in the fucking throat.
That was like two balls just hanging in a nut sack. When he was
one
on Joe
sack,
Rogan,
I know. It's like, oh god.
Just swinging back and forth.
Everything I ever see on Aaron Rodgers, any video that I come across, I comment every fucking time. I go, won Super Bowl 2010. And then somebody goes, how many of you won? I'm like, well, Eli Manning's won one more than Rodgers has. So there you fucking go. Eli.
Eli.
I wanted to ask you, Patrick. I don't know if you saw this with Aaron Rodgers, where in the news he's touting ayahuasca and he went down and did a trip and it's changed his perspective on thinking and he's much more calm now. And
nice.
Just kind of
made his ego bigger.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I haven't heard about that, but it doesn't surprise me. Like,
it's an odd thing because it's, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, this guy, the ego on this guy is immense.
Yeah.
And ayahuasca, which is, an ego buster. Yeah. And they met and fucking Rodgers won.
It really says a lot. Yeah.
It does. Like, I'm not doing ayahuasca.
There's this weird phenomena with psychedelics where it's not even weird. I think if I can get kind of woo or whatever about it for a minute, but I've taken plenty of psychedelics and anyone else here who has as well. There's this thing where like, yeah, you have this like ego dissolving, ego death experience. If you take enough mushrooms or you take ayahuasca, you have this intense, like harrowing even experience on this drug and you're just like communing with nature. And it's just like, whoa, like, it puts everything in perspective and it's like life-changing and all that. But then after you come out of that experience, you're like, holy shit, I know the truth. I know
I just can't
the meaning of everything.
Right,
and this grandiosity sets in where you're like, I'm going to save the world or I'm going to tell everybody the secret, and that's a thing that I think like community, if we had actual community, would actually help temper, be like, yo, you had a great experience, but you need to like understand, like, yeah, just like wash the dishes and chill the fuck out. Like, take a shower, calm down, like hold the baby, go on a walk, like just calm down. But here, you have someone like Aaron Rodgers has a huge platform who's obviously has an enormous ego. Like, yes, I'm sure he had his own version of an ego death on ayahuasca, and I'm sure it's calmed him down. I'm sure it helped him put things in perspective. But if he has the same access to resources, wealth, and influence that he had prior to the trip, then he's just going to channel that feeling he had into another form of narcissism. Mm-hmm. And that's like what happens. I think that happens to a lot of people. They have the money to go on this ayahuasca trip where they get to like talk to so-called indigenous healers who are basically just acting as if like they're putting on this sort of play for them. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, you're in this indigenous ritual. We're going to do a ritual. And it's like, not that those things aren't real, but they often cater them specifically to Westerners and people of the global north that can afford to fly down to fucking Peru and spend $5,000 or however many thousands of dollars to go to a resort. And then they come out of it and they're like, oh my God, I had such a spiritual journey. And they didn't even touch the thing. It's just a form of colonialism, honestly. So,
we did a podcast. It's to be on about a year or so ago about that. It was really good.
Yeah. I've had a few, like I had this sort of shift where I love psychedelics and I will always speak highly of them as a potentially positive experience. But like there was a turn in my podcast where I decided to interview somebody who like had a really critical view of the ayahuasca kind of thing, the industrial, what do you want to call it? Tourism industry, basically.
Right.
And after that, I started like interviewing other people who had more critical views of the corporatization of psychedelics, like how it's become like with the weed thing, like we're talking about the weed.
Right.
It's so cool. You can just walk into a dispensary, but there are people making millions of dollars off that shit. And there are still however many people still in fucking prison for selling weed. I know
you're gonna say that.
Yeah. So like nothing really substantial has changed systemically. It's just some people now can make money. And so the same thing is going to happen with, I guarantee, as soon as the MDMA trials end and as soon as, they start legalizing it for therapy and all this stuff, you're going to see a lot of people make a lot of fucking money. Because you're already seeing that. There's investors already. They're like, oh, we're getting ready for the big business of psychedelics here,
and I, not to be like too judgmental, because it's different for every person, but I think psychedelics are kind of like, you get out like what you put in. So if you're kind of like Aaron Rodgers, it's just really a shallow egomaniac, you're maybe not going to have quite as deep of a experience that really blows you away, because you might just not think like that.
It works with what you got.
Yeah.
And there are it doesn't stop people from being awful, unfortunately. We want a quick fix. I think we want the thing that'll fix people of their psychopathy, their whatever the word I'm trying to say is, their ego and everything. But there isn't.
So silver bullet.
Yeah.
It's just,
I mean, people are crazy, man. Have
People
you guys
crazy.
ever heard of Nick Fuentes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's
Crazy
that
dude.
shitty little white nationalist piece of shit kid.
I never heard what he said before, right?
Yeah.
And I actually listened to a clip, and he was talking about, like, man, we want women in the house. We don't want them to have jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, kill all the then I just transgender folks. LBGTQ. He wants to kill everybody. This dude said, we don't want to go back to 1999. We want to go back to 1099. That motherfucker is crazy.
Yeah.
Right? But what I'm saying is that, think about how crazy he is, and then think about the fact he has a large following, right?
Yeah.
That last conference that he had, and what's her name? Marjorie Green.
Yeah.
She was there.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not small potatoes, right? Mm-hmm. So if you think about how many people out there that are fucked up like that, right? I don't give a damn if you give them all the psychedelics in the world. That's not going to change them. They just pieces of shit. That's the same with Aaron Rodgers. These cats are not going. You gotta realize there's something wrong with you in order to change, right? And these cats, they don't see themselves as being wrong in any way, shape, or form. No way. So he might have just did it. I think he probably just did it for the experience, just to have a talking point. Like, I did this, or I did that, or I went here. So he just did something. I think he did something unique just to do something that he knew none of the other guys on the team were going to do, right? So in a way, for me, it was like his expression of his superiority. You're not on my conscious level, so I know you're not going to do something like this. You went to Hawaii, right? Or you went to Miami, or you went to the Bahamas, or Fiji, or whatever, right? Yeah. I went and got high, like, just like I said, it's kind of like a tourist thing, right? It's not regular. It just gave him the ability to have a good talking point, whether he's at a cocktail engagement or if he's at a bar. He can always talk about something like that, and he'll be seen as unique because he's a very individualist person. Like you say, he's very narcissistic. So that's all I see as far as that's concerned. If you gave my man Nick Fuentes, like, he's still gonna be an asshole, you know. I think it's like Colin was saying. I think it's just an expression of who you are as far as how the drug's gonna affect you, right? And my father used to get high all the time, right? My 1970s Los Angeles, he wasn't the only one. He grew his weed on his balcony of his apartment, right? He wasn't the only one. So, but he did it as relaxation. He was the same guy when he was high. I mean, he would be playing chess and be smoking weed at the same time. You know, that's just how he got down. So it wasn't like he was wild. In fact, they would all do that. Like, all his friends, you know, they would sit around and philosophize, and women, you know, I think that's what they would do. So it's different. Yeah. It was different times. But I don't think somebody like Aaron Rodgers or Nick Fuentes or any of these folks, man. I think they're all pieces of shit, to be quite honest with you. They can take all the drugs they want, not take all the drugs they want. They're just assholes.
Yeah.
And there's like another end of it where I'm someone who doesn't do any drugs, and I see people that do, and they say, "Oh, it could save the world." Like, what is that? How do people think that?
Thanks. Fuck is that? I've heard that shit before too. That's what I'm saying, right? I mean, Marjorie Green, you gonna give her some psychedelics, and all of a sudden she gonna get conscious about whatever the fuck? woman's an idiot. You know, I think the thing I hate most about these people is in fact, mention Aaron Rodgers, right? He's supposed to be so conscious and smart, right? So he was, immunized or whatever, right? So he's on Joe. I don't know if you saw when Joe talked to him about, you know, like his protocol for the Rona, but he was like, well, you know, he was allergic to something that's in the vaccine, so he said that's why I didn't take, which I didn't believe. I think that's bullshit. Then he said like blood clots from not Moderna, what is it? Johnson, right? So he said, well, he went to these cats and they gave him a different protocol to follow, and then he said, well, it had like a little bit of the Rona in it, and then Joe Rogan was like, well, what did it all consist of? He said, I don't know. I can't tell you. So how in the fuck are you going to talk about the vaccine, but you don't go microdose this shit from some fool? Come on, man. Come on. I don't even think he took nothing. I don't think he took shit. I think he just like lying, right? I mean, he lied before and he's lying now. So I'm saying that if he was conscious, he would change at least some part of his attitude, but he's the same person before psychedelics as he was afterwards, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think... I mean, people are fascists. They take it. Doesn't stop them from being fascists. Look, I mean, again, I've had some of the most mind-bending experiences ever, and I'm grateful for them. Like, I had an experience where I was like, I know it sounds weird. I had an experience where I was Jesus Christ, and I was on the cross, and I felt complete love and empathy for every single motherfucker ever. I had love spewing out of me like as light, like, and that was my trip. I was sitting on a toilet in a bathroom having that trip. That's what it did, and I felt like unconditional love for everybody.
But yeah, that's who you are, though.
Yeah,
right? I mean, that doesn't shock me, right? I mean, like, yeah. Maybe to not that heightened degree when you're on psychedelics, but that's like your natural aura. That's your persona, right? Yeah. So that doesn't shock me.
But the thing is, you come out of that and you think everybody could have that. And that's just not true, unfortunately.
Right.
I want to pivot.
I know that got high. Yeah. When they were pieces of shit, they were pieces of shit when they got high, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dudes that are belligerent, you put something in them, and they're going to get more belligerent. I've seen cats get poked up, and all of a sudden, some of them want to fight, you know, or get drink in them, or whatever it may be. Most times, it's going to just bring out your true persona even worse. They might even kick Aaron Rodgers the fuck out of here and say, man, get the fuck out of here. You might put more of an asshole once he took psychedelics and shit.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, clearly the boomers didn't all drop acid in the 60s and then fix the world. So,
dude, there was an article that came out in it was like Military Times or something. It was some years ago. They had an article where it was written by someone I think they were in the Marines, and they were like, hey, you know what? We should figure out a way to microdose LSD for members of the military to better interpret data, because a lot of data comes in. They need to figure out what to do with that information, and there's so much spilling in. Like, how do we organize it? And like, it's only so much one person or several people can do. Well, if you microdose them with LSD, their ability to focus increases, right? Because microdosing can do that, right? It doesn't get you high. You don't have an actual like hallucinogenic experience, but it puts you just in a higher state of consciousness of focus where you can like interpret data faster and better. And that's true. Like, you take a little bit of psilocybin, a little bit of LSD. Yeah, your focus is amazing. In fact, you have Silicon Valley, types that are like microdosing psilocybin, microdosing LSD, and they're like, man, I'm so much more efficient at working. I could figure shit out so much better. And I'm like, the capitalists in the military can figure out how to take something like that and turn it into a way to make them more efficient and to make more profit. And so I'm like, okay, this is all right. It's over. We're done. Just put it away. Like the promise of the free love and utopia that people had out of like the 60s or whatever is just it's a delusion.
I've never microdosed. I've only macrodosed. I don't know. I wouldn't know how to. If you just tear a little.
It's like a fraction of the normal amount you would take.
Right.
Yeah, but I wanted to ask this from Colin, because on Facebook, I think the last person that we had on with us in the last episode was Jessica, and I think she was talking about that documentary series on Netflix about Woodstock. 99? Was that the year that it
Yeah,
happened?
Woodstock 99. Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
watched it.
yeah.
So, Colin, you commented under it, I believe, right? You were talking
Yeah,
about it. Did you
I
go?
was at it the whole weekend. Yeah, from like
How
Thursday night until Monday morning.
can you
So
Wow.
please? I'm sorry.
Yeah, why don't you tell us about that?
I have so many questions, and it was like every episode I was watching with my partner, and we're like, oh, this is getting really bad. Oh, this is really, really bad. And then by the final episode, I'm like, wow, I cannot believe
yeah.
this happened, and I didn't
So
know about it.
yeah, so like at first I didn't want to go, but a boomer friend of mine, like a really close friend, was like, "Oh, you should go." Like, it's like a chance of a lifetime, basically. And I went to it, and with a few friends, and I feel like the documentary is kind of, like there were definitely horrible things that happened there that came out in retrospect, or that, but on the ground at the actual festival, you weren't really hearing about like rapes or sexual assaults and stuff.
Sure.
So a lot of that, what that is very dramatic in documentaries and makes it seem like just this giant rape festival kind of thing, was not what occurred to you on the ground while you were there. Like the girls that were with our group like weren't uncomfortable, as far as I could tell. They'd never said they were anyway.
Right.
And but yeah, overall it was just hot and shitty, and feeling like you're being exploited for every dime that they can get out of you all weekend. And then, even the ATMs ran out of money. So you would like stand in line for an hour in the sun on tarmac to get to the ATM, and then it wouldn't have any money. So then you couldn't go buy your like $6 bottle of water. So then you were like, do I just not drink water, or do I drink the water that has shit in it?
Yeah, because
And
the water had shit in it, right?
visibly shit. Like,
Wow.
after one of the raves one night, where I had been filling up my water bottle from the free fountains, like in the morning after it had been sitting in my tent overnight, I like picked it up, and you could just see like brown sediment at the bottom.
Fuck.
And so I'm like super surprised I didn't get E. coli, because it seems like you definitely would, and lots of people did. But
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, there are crazy stories of the riots and stuff. Like we went and wandered around. Like I did not feel at all bad when vendors started getting their shit burned and looted. I was just like, this is what happens when you treat people like this. You get your shit burned and looted eventually. Especially when you're all contained in a little like refugee camp.
Yeah.
3 days, like nonstop alcohol and drugs. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just moved to New York. Moved to New York in 98. That's when I was a young 27-year-old, I think.
Whole world in front of you.
Yeah, I had my whole world in front of me. But when I felt the energy for something like that, or the inclination. But I did have a friend who was, wanted me to go, and I was again young, and I just moved to New York, and it's it was kind of, I'm obviously glad I didn't. But I remember talking to people that got back, and they were they mentioned what a shit show it was, but what they really focused on a lot was the exploitation, was just really being just fuck. Like those are stories I heard. I haven't seen a movie. I know there's a lot of shit that happened there that was pretty terrible. Like you were saying, like it's, I don't know, maybe it wasn't as prevalent as they made it out to be, but
well, the number of signs that said "show us your tits," or the number of times you heard that screamed by different sizes of groups of men, that was very common. So it's not like that vibe. It was a very like bro-y frat boy vibe to the whole
Fred Durst.
Yeah. But I just mean, it didn't, as a man, I obviously can't really comment on how it felt for women there, but like the girls that were with us, like they didn't come like screaming up to us like we've got to leave, or like this terrible thing happened, But in retrospect, when all the police reports got logged and everything, it's pretty clear like a lot of bad things were really going on, which I guess you would expect with the general vibe of the male population, but I don't know. It's a conflicting thing. Like it was horrible while we were there. Like it was just hot and uncomfortable, and like my favorite parts were like the raves at night because it finally like cooled down enough you could like enjoy yourself and not just try not to die of heat stroke all the time. But but in retrospect, like I'm kind of glad I went. It was, it was something for sure. Like it was an experience.
It's historical.
All I remember, I don't remember the band. I remember the Chili Peppers had that fire thing, which was one of the many bad, terrible decisions.
Yeah, like I literally couldn't believe that happened because we were at the, we were standing in the crowd for the Chili Peppers show, and there were already fires starting, and they had to like stop the show and tell everybody like you've got to move out of the way to let a fire engine in here. But it never came, right? So in one of the documentaries that I watched about it, the promoters were actually talking about it. Like Michael Lang and his buddies are sitting there and they're like, yeah, the fire department refused to go in there because it was already getting so riotous, and because
they're smart.
Well, yeah, anybody that had any authority, like at one point they told everybody to like take their laminates off, take their shirts off. Do not let anybody out there know that you're associated with like the employees of the festival, because you'd be like in danger. So I think the fire department was just like, nope, you guys created this, it's up to you to figure it out.
Wow.
So they didn't come and put out the fires, and we thought that meant that it was just going to be done. But then the Chili Peppers came back out and covered Fire by Jimi Hendrix, which just seems like complete enticement, and it did while I was standing there. I'm like, you guys are bringing this on purpose. Like, and then their excuse is that, oh, well, we told Jimi Hendrix's sister we'd do this as a tribute to him. So, but it did not.
Rather convenient.
Yeah, it was not interpreted like that by anybody that was there.
Yeah, it seems like from just the documentary, the organizers of it. So there was the guy who was one of the original organizers of the first Woodstock.
Michael Lang,
and then there was the other guy,
the organizer.
Yeah, then there was the one guy who's like, I'm a promoter and I know how to make a lot of money off these things, and he's the one that kind of cut all the corners, and it was just one of those things where they were trying to like show or ask them questions like, how do you feel about how all this happened? And they just refused to take responsibility for how bad it got. It was that same like bad apples argument. Oh, there was a few bad people in the crowd. They were doing some bad stuff. They were vandalizing. They were attacking people. And I'm just like, the whole setup from the beginning was not going to end well. It seemed like.
No, like in every one of the Woodstocks they did, like, the original one in 69, and then they did 94 and 99. Every time they thought they were going to make profit, and they kind of got more desperate to make profit each time. And fortunately, that never happened. They lost money massively every time. And
peace and love don't sell.
Yeah, I like to think I'm a small part of that.
Yeah, you're welcome, Woodstock.
I forgot there's one in 94. Jeez, I can't even remember.
I know.
That was all 9 Inch. That was 9 Inch Nails and Green Day and an actual mud that wasn't made out of shit.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, I know.
So
except for the Chili Peppers, I don't even remember the 99 lineup.
Limp Bizkit did 99, didn't they?
Yeah.
Did they do like wreck shit, and that kind of just tipped the whole fucking?
Yeah, I mean, it was a very angry crowd, like that, like you'd expect at Limp Bizkit. It was like a crazy mosh pit. I stayed far away from it, but I wouldn't say like it was Fred Durst's fault either, because that
was full blown by the time they went on.
Well, no, I mean, it like honestly, the real rioting and burning of stuff didn't start for like 24 hours after he was done.
But the ball was rolling.
Yeah, it was rolling downhill faster and faster the whole time. Like,
I just wanted to hear experiences on that very historical thing. It was interesting to watch the documentary. I'm like, am I going to see Colin in there? Am I going to see Colin in
crazy
that crowd?
how, I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's been as long since that time as it was when I was 19 then.
Wow.
Or actually, I think I was still 18. I was about to turn 19 because it was like in July and I turned 19 in September. So
isn't it weird that 99 was so, what is it? It's been over 20 years. It's been
23.
That's amazing, right? It's weird.
The 90s are kind of to now like seeming like the 50s to me, like, or the 50s were like, it's like this mythical era, where things like seemed good, like, oh, they were good, but like, no, they were shit. Like if you lived it, it wasn't.
Yeah, we were still angry. Like Nirvana was my favorite band and shit, like it wasn't like we were all peace and love back then either.
No, I mean, I was in my 20s, so in your 20s.
I was in the Toad the Wet Sprockets, so I was real mellow.
The Spin Doctors.
The Spin. Oh fuck! I hate that band. Fucking hate that band.
Gin Blossoms.
Gin Blossoms. Smash Mouth.
Oh god.
Fucking Smash Mouth. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Those were the 90s.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I got to head out to my my ham radio class here now.
Oh my god.
Oh man, I'd like to hear more about the ham radio.
That's what Boris is talking on right now.
I was saying that when the internet collapses and we can't use the Zoom any longer, we're going to have to but broadcast Attack and Dethrone on some like pirate radio, ham radio shit with Colin.
Yeah. No, I've always wanted to get into it ever since like Pump Up the Volume with Christian Slater.
That's right, man.
When he was like, my dad bought me this ham radio set so I could talk to my friends back east, but like turns out it's extremely hard to talk to people on the East Coast without like relaying it through the internet or something, which is like cheating, right?
Right.
Yeah. Unfortunately, my dad.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, boy.
No, I was saying my dad was into it, so like. I was just thought it was like kind of uncool because he was into it, like oh, dad likes it.
My wife thinks it's kind of uncool. She thinks it's very uncool. She's
man.
Like, oh, more old person shit.
She'll see. Like, she'll know how cool it is soon enough.
Someday she'll see.
Yeah.
No, I wanted to put a CB in my truck, and she was like, "What the fuck, man?" Like
Breaker 19.
Well, I'm. Let us know how it goes. Yeah, and we should try to broadcast
ham radio
one of these.
episode.
Yeah, ham radio.
Yeah,
I would love that.
Radio.
Yeah.
Or CBs. I'm done with CBs too.
CBs,
yeah. CBs.
CBs are fun.
Walkie talkies.
We'll buy ham radios for everybody or whatever.
Maybe
we can do that.
Yeah.
I just want to die before we go to Morse code or some shit like that.
Dude, like I have I've programmed all the repeaters around here into like a little portable radio I have, and like I'll just let it scan at my desk during work sometimes. And dudes still do Morse code. Like you'll catch people broadcasting Morse code. Like
really? Wow.
They get ahead of the game. Ahead of the game.
Yeah.
They see it coming. It's fucking shit.
They will inherit the earth.
It is. Oh man.
Hey Boris, I want to hear about your experiment with no
the whole summer in Houston with no AC.
Yeah. Somebody
did it, man.
I can imagine that. That seems crazy.
Oh yeah. No,
I gotta bounce, guys. So I will talk to you all later.
Bye, Colin.
See you later, man.
See you later, man.
Come on. Okay. So, what was it, a year and a half ago now? We had the ice storm here in Houston, Texas, or in Texas, and Ted Cruz ran down to Mexico?
Cancun.
For a week. Yeah, Cancun. Yeah, went down there, had them tight ass jeans on, that belly, dragging that suitcase with his big ass. Yeah, so I was in my car with my dogs trying to stay warm, right? Trying to make sure my dogs didn't die because I had my little diabetic dog, Pitbull, passed away. So I had to come in and check on her, and I couldn't keep her in the car because she'd get something shit all night. So anyhow, so I said, we're getting close to the end here. And I'm 49 years old. And I want to see if I still got some wherewithal in me. I'm not talking about like workout or anything like that. I mean, like, can I tough it out? And I'm like, I'm gonna try it. And so what I did was, I live in a townhouse, so it's 3 stories. So really, I don't think I could have done it if I was living in like a 1 story or just like like a regular house, because all that heat would have been cloistered on top of it. But it's kind of like just like physics and dynamics, all that shit. So the heat rises. So all I did was just stay on the down floor for the most part, right? That was it. I took one of my mattresses and I sat it down here on my box spring, sat it down here, slept on that, and that was it, man. I went upstairs to clean up or whatever, and get my clothes or whatnot. But I really just stayed on the first floor, and then I opened up the doors. Huh?
How long did you do it for?
Oh, I just started running the AC now. I was doing it from the beginning of the summer, which was Memorial Day, all the way to Labor Day.
Wow.
Oh,
damn, man.
Yeah. No, it was just an interesting experiment, because we say it all the time. It's like that's like a common thing down here. Like, man, I don't know if I can do it without AC. Man, I don't know if I can do it without AC.
Yeah.
But I was like, man, you know what? That's a luxury we only recently had, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like recently in the human experience. So I did want to see like how bad it would be. But it's like most of it now, I'm not gonna go crazy with it. Some of these temperatures that we see now, it's insane across the globe, and we all know why that is. But I do realize that a lot of the eccentricities that we have going on here is not going to be here forever. So, I mean, I don't know if we have another 10 years, man, to be quite honest with you. I'd be shocked.
Mm-hmm.
I'm serious, I'd be shocked before something catastrophic happens. Me, I'm planning for civil war, right? I mean, we're just so divided now that there's no coming back. It never was like that. I mean, we've always been divided. It's just more honest and open about it now, right? Because everybody's strapped financially. The climate's going crazy. Food, inflation, all those things are just now starting to come to a head. So, so I'm just really just trying to, in my life anyhow, just figure out, like, okay, well, what is it that I can live with, can't live with, and what is it that I can live without, right? So, yeah, it was interesting. I mean, I won't do it again, but I just wanted to see if I could do it, right? Just to see if I had the mental wherewithal to actually do something like that and not like quit after a week or whatever. So, but it was interesting. But I mean, I sweated. I mean, you guys in the last podcast, I was sweating. I didn't want to say that. Like, I want to get to the end of the summer and then I'll say it. But
yeah.
No, it's on blast now. It's on blast now. Fuck that.
I didn't realize you were doing it for so long. I thought it was for like a week. I didn't realize you were doing it for like months, man. That's just, yeah. I mean, that's.
I know it's crazy. Crazy.
I mean, how was it overall? Like, you said you wouldn't do it again. I understand that, but like, you think like.
I just want to see if you can acclimate to something, right?
Yeah.
Adaptability, right? Because I do realize, like, like in 10 years, I might have to leave here because the weather's so bad. Like, if I might die of heat stroke, I'm 49, gonna be 50, and still in relatively good shape, so mentally, physically, and the whole nine. So it wasn't that difficult. It's like anything. Once you get used to it, it becomes like a routine, and your mind kind of gets away from it.
It's a serious commitment, though. I mean, I used to live in Florida and similar climate, and like the lows at night would be like 85. So I mean, the thing would be running all night. So when it's not like you're getting a break out in Houston in the summer.
No. But I did have ventilation, right? Like I said, I have windows here. I open them up, and then I get that breeze coming through sometimes. So it wasn't that bad. Plus, I did have a fan. The way I set it up was I kind of had it at the windows, so whatever cool air at night would come through, and I would just use that to I guess not die, but I mean, it was hot. It was hot, but
so
just get used to it, man.
This is what I do. I charge these on a solar panel every day. Then I put this thing
that's a fan
right by my face when I go to bed, because I sleep, in a yurt. there's in my yurt, it's a gare. There are no windows. There's a little dome you can sort of open on the top, and we leave the door kind of open. We put a screen in front of it so no skunks come in. But then I have this fan, and I lay and I put it basically, by my head. And then sometimes I have two. I put one down by my torso because June through, well, really September even is pretty brutal here. So I went for the month of June back to my folks in the Midwest. And I'm like, I think I might do June, July, August. Because the older I get, I've been living without air conditioning for about 11 years now, but it's like, it's not getting any cooler. And it's the humidity and, the things you acclimate to are like when we moved to Phoenix, it was just so nice to have the sun out all the time. And we were like, oh my God, sunlight. But then after 10 years, like, I could really use a fucking cloudy day. So the thing I've acclimated to is more of living with pests. Like I lived in a house, it was very clean. And, I used to walk into a room and I would look in the corner of the ceilings to see if there were any like bugs or spiders or anything. And I would fucking take care of that shit. I live in a fucking tent made of blankets and sticks. And I guarantee you there's fucking critters running all over the goddamn. Every once in a while, I just reach in the dark and throw something off my face. It's probably some daddy long leg or something. But that's the biggest thing that's changed in my life. I have just gotten used to pests because I'm surrounded by bugs and rodents. I live in the desert in a tent. You can't escape that shit. That's the biggest thing I've overcome for me personally. All my sort of is my bug phobia. And snake. I broke up a snake fight the other day. Two snakes were fighting, and I stepped in. I was like, "That snake is trying to eat this snake." Oh, come on! I took a broom and flipped one. I'm like, I would have gotten 20 feet of this 10 years ago.
Yeah,
I hear that.
I just can't. It's amazing. Sometimes I'm blown away by myself. I'm like, wow, I just walked up to a snake fight.
I remember one time it was when I was in Brazil, and it was summer and it was fucking hot and humid. It was like a tropical, like humid environment, and I was not used to that. It was winter here. It was winter in the north, and then summer down there. So you get there and you're like, oh man, my body is fucked up. And there was one night where it got so hot. It was like it was like a dome of humidity. I don't know how to, it just felt like you were trapped in a sauna. The entire area was just like hot and humid all night. And for whatever reason, I guess everybody that had AC, which most people don't, but anyone who had it was using it. So there was like brownouts happening. Yeah. So like the power would like come on, and then it would like you would see the lights flicker and come down and on, like the fans wouldn't work. And it was one night, but it was really, really, really uncomfortable. Like you could not cool down. And the only thing that saved me was like, I went to the freezer and found a big liter bottle of Coca-Cola bottle that was full of like frozen water. And I like took that to bed and like slept with it next to my face. I was like, thank God I found this. Like, and that's the thing, right? Is like more people are going to use AC because it's getting so fucking hot,
right?
And these grids can't take that, and so it just like was a tiny taste of what it would feel like to be in a heat wave without AC, without any power. And that was kind of
that's going to be interesting when that starts to happen here. I went through the same thing when I was in Nicaragua. I was there in June, and they had brownouts, and I literally would get up about every 2 hours, just step in the shower, get soaked, not wash, rinse off, and just lay back. And then we would go lay in the courtyard because it was slightly cooler outside. And I was like, holy fuck.
It's amazing.
I don't know how people can do this. But like Forrest said, you get to a point where you just start to, it's just the way it is. But the psychological reaction of when it happens in this country, especially places like out here in the Southwest, where you just go from your air-conditioned house to your air-conditioned car to your air-conditioned job and back and forth, you barely have to step outside. And, if they start having these rolling fucking brownouts, and people are going to lose their fucking minds in a hurry.
Coming. I mean, I know here in the Northwest, they're saying that we have one of the oldest power grids in the country.
Yeah.
And to me, it's a symptom of empire. Don't invest in your own, just constantly going and exploiting others overseas while exploiting your own population in other ways. And it's like, so I had this idea that I was like, I'm going to get a generator in my house. You know, I'm going to set this up and I'm going to use that as an investment. People invest in stuff. I'm going to invest in this. So like I had this guy come out, give me an estimate. And I realized after that estimate, this'll never happen how expensive it is. But I wanted to pick his brain a little bit because he's like part of this alternative energy company. So he was telling me, he's like, actually, these electric cars put more stress on the grid. Grids didn't expect electric cars to be plugged into them. It's going to be a problem when they're telling people to go electric. So it's like this situation, like we always say, you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. Like, have a gas car, heat up the planet, have an electric car, fry out the grid, and exploit more minerals in the earth. So it's just, it makes you wonder how people are going to handle that in the future, because it's coming.
Well, and I just want to just say also, you know, Rob and I were in the Pacific Northwest, so these heat waves, the one last year was fucking gnarly. I didn't live here yet, but it was gnarly. So like, there were people that died from heat stroke in Portland, right? Because it was over 110 degrees for several days, and people don't have AC there because they've never needed it.
It's like London. AC in London.
London was baked, dude. Like people were dying because they're like, "What? This is not. We don't have the infrastructure for this." No. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that. Those kind of issues coming out because places that just traditionally have never had heat waves are going to have them every year.
And the companies aren't going to pay for upgraded infrastructure. They're going to make up for it, you know? So it's like, and people are going to be willing to do it because they're just going to want their old lives back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Not happening. I mean, I watched a documentary called Sand Wars. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It was talking about how like asphalt, concrete, we need sand for that shit, right? Mm-hmm. Not to mention petroleum to actually make it. But you can't even get sand, like, let's say the Sahara Desert, right? And I thought about this, like, the wind on it blows it so much that the sand is very, doesn't have any texture to it, right? Mm. So what they need is like real sand that hasn't been tainted, I guess, by being like in the elements. So a lot of times what they'll do is they'll go to like the coastline and they'll get a lot of sand. I think it was like Thailand, a lot of places in Southeast Asia they get the sand from. And with also the way that water levels are rising, right? The oceans are rising, that doesn't help the situation. So they're starting to run out of actual sand that we need here to build all this concrete, all this infrastructure and the whole nine. So that can't continue, right? The biggest lie I ever heard is when people tell people in the global south that they can live like this if, I don't know, they have better economic system or whatever it may be. Yeah. Well, no, man, because this is one thing I know. It's like when I was growing up in Los Angeles, right? And I realized this. The promise that they gave us is that we could, I guess, turn the hood into like some middle-class oasis, like in Compton and Linwood where I grew up, in Long Beach, well, North Long Beach where I grew up. Because South Long Beach, that's going into Orange County, so that's kind of nice. But you tell people like, well, if you have this economic base, you'll be able to build all this stuff yourself in your community. And I realized, no, the only way that we could do that is if we took all the resources from the white communities and invest them in, not the money, the actual resources. And now I know conduit to get it is money, don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, money does number the conduit to get us the shit that we need, right? Food, water, gas, whatever. So we would have to grab all y'all shit, and then all the outer regions that were the suburbs would be all fucked up, and then the inner city would be good. Or we would have to kick all y'all asses out, and we live where you are, and then you come back. See, there's just not enough to be spread around. It's impossible. Right. You ain't gonna have no 3,000 square foot house with a pool in the back in every house in Linwood where I grew up. It's just impossible, man. You know? Yeah. So I think that's just the biggest lie, you know? And I think that's what I wanted to, and I did kind of want to see what it's like to experience from the position of somebody who doesn't have like this one luxury that I took away from myself, right? You know, how does it feel to actually live in over 100-degree heat? Like, get a feel for it. You know, so I'm glad. I'm not glad. I took that upon myself, so I don't feel bad about that one. I wouldn't wish the grit going down here in Texas during that cold front, because you're talking about kids and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that we learned nothing from all of this. All that came from that. I mean, it's the same as it was before. You know, like even what was the recent school shooting?
Uvalde?
Yeah, thanks. We ain't learned shit. Man, people forgot about that just as quickly as anything, man. They passed some shit bill that's not going to stop anybody from getting a gun just to make themselves feel good so they can sleep well at night. But we all know it'd be just as easy to get. They just had shooting.
There's
I
one
think
in
in Arizona.
In Bend, too.
The kid, you saw, he worked at that store. He came out of the apartment shooting, went into the store, killed 2 folks, and then he shot himself, right? Didn't he shoot himself eventually?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was planning on going to the high school, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he was a strange kid, and he had a lot of problems. But people act like these things are like mental issues, like, you know, like these are things that are happening because of the society that we have, not because of they just inherent in him and we live in a good society, right? Because the kid was talking about killing folks back in the day. I read a article. They said that people at school said the same thing they said about it. They called him shooter. He threatened to shoot people. He was a loner. He's isolated. Nick Fuente couldn't get no girlfriend. That's the type of dude that follow that dude like Nick Fuente. That's what he wants. I mean, like, he wants to go back to the time when you could just come here, girl, grab a woman, and then just have her, take her, beat the shit out of her, and then just go on about your business, or keep her, or just have her live in perpetual fear. Because that was one of the things they said. He didn't have a girlfriend, and he felt bad about that. He felt alone in each and every way. So that had nothing to do with, okay, well, he would be like this even if he had everything that he wished he would have had: popularity, a woman, shit job. He wasn't even like a cashier at the store. He's one of them cats that had to go out and get the baskets. So, yeah, he's like the lowest of the low. So he eventually went off, right? So I do think that these people have mental issues, but people need to start looking at the society that's bringing these issues upon people. Like, I remember I was listening to Joe Rogan, and some cat talked about homelessness. And I'll be totally honest with you guys. There are a few people that know this. I have an older brother. He ended up homeless, and he's institutionalized right now in Los Angeles. I can't find him because once you're in the system, I tell you, unless you leave a note or something, or let the doctors know that you can tell where they're at, they don't give up the information. Me and my uncle, we think that we found out where he's at, and we talked to his counselor, but he couldn't verify it. But there were like some telltale signs that was like, I can't tell you, but
yeah.
So, and then you can't even get in to see somebody if they don't want to see you, right? You got to be like, well, can he come see me? Well, once he's catatonic, we think he's all messed up. Now, he wasn't on drugs. He wasn't, an addict. He wasn't a drunkard. None of that stuff. He just fell. He lost his job, and he was a stenographer, I think, for City of Long Beach. But he lost his job. Couldn't find another one. Well, I got out of Los Angeles, escalating costs of housing, right? Fell on hard times. From what I gather, he started living in his car. He couldn't take it no more. He finally broke down, right? People don't deal with that. If you're listening to somebody like Joe Rogan, it's always they're on drugs, they're doing this. No, man, it's financial disability that causes you to spiral into those things, right? That's the one focal point that nobody really wants to look at. It's the economics of it. That's why he ended up in the position that he was in. Sad to say, and it's happening to more people. I'll tell anybody, when I went out to LA, that was about 6-7 years ago, something like that. The one thing I noticed was that all the cars, and there was nowhere to park. And then I realized that the reason there's so many cars around all these houses is because you got 2 or 3 families living in like one family apartments, or like 3 families in houses and shit like that. So I think people need to start looking at that more so than anything else. The society that which they're never gonna do.
when I was in LA last month, there was
yeah.
It's pretty rampant, and there's RVs everywhere. There's RVs that are clearly people living in them.
Bingo.
And in New York, they pushed them away and underground.
I saw a documentary on that.
Yeah.
It's freaky.
It's
freaky.
And in New York is like so dense that kind of like kind of something like that. But it was. I was in Venice. It's like multi-million-dollar houses with like homeless encampments on like half the block. That
Right.
Yeah.
I think Bill, I think when you were in that area, I was in Oakland in the Bay Area, and like you drive around and you go under these bridges, these overpasses, and there's just tent cities under there.
Huge.
Dozens of people.
We drove from San Diego up to LA. Every underpass had a, not everyone, but like a pretty good amount.
It's really bad. Like it's like really visibly bad. Like it's not.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. We were staying at this we were staying in Venice, and there's this window in the back, and there's a lot of these like little kind of adorable little like beach bungalows, probably when people people lived in that area, right? So like there's like multiple condos. So I was just kind of curious about. It's like, oh, that's cute. So I went on Zillow. It's like almost $2 million. $2 million for this fucking like this bungalow. It's like New York, like even like the crazy in New York. I was like, holy shit, like that's just insane. Like,
and I
bungalow.
Part of we see this out west too. I mean, where I'm at, Portland area. Oh my gosh, to me, some of the problems I see is like you have the right Portland's such a hotbed of conversation, right? You have the right that'll say it's deteriorating. Look at all the drugs, the lawlessness, and all, and this is why. But then I see some people that I respect on the left that are out here will say there's no problem at all, and that's where I think people need to have on the left. Some people on the left need to have an honest conversation. Portland is deteriorating. There is no denying it. I've only been here 4 years and I can see it. But why? Let's have it's a complex issue. It's not one simple reason. And I think that's where people go to the right then a little bit more, because at least the right will say there's a problem here. Yeah. Where some people on the left say, oh, there's no problem.
That. They have answers for it. Yeah, they're quick.
Yeah. And it's like, there is a problem here, but let's talk about all the different factors of why there's a problem here, because it's not that easy of why.
Yeah.
I mean, regardless of how people feel about it, and I know there are a lot of different theories about it. I mean, like as I said before, I read a book. I think I might start in a documentary. Anyhow, the natural land base of Los Angeles, where I grew up, is like 500,000 people, like the maximum, like without having to bring in extra resources and all this other shit, right? Man, when I was in Linwood, and that wasn't like a big city, right? It's like 100,000 people that lived in. Well, I think like 100,000. They used to have this sign, but that was so long ago. It might be at 100,000 now. Anyhow, my point being is that like that right there in my little Linwood where I live, that was freaking a fifth of the natural land base of Los Angeles, right? You got more people, you got to bring in more resources, right? And you can't build out, you got to build up. Right. So I mean that's it. I mean that is the only answer. But it is no answer because it's damn near impossible. Right. So you're right. People, it isn't an easy issue. I understand. There's some complexities to it. Right. But me personally, I mean, I just can't let it like inundate my mind anymore like it did back in the day. Because I mean, I got to be happy. Right. So I do tailor it back a little bit now. I kind of suspend it just so I can have time to, I guess, lead a good and fulfilling life, at least for me. But no, man, it's getting bad out here. It's getting bad. I mean, we all can agree. It's like I always know, like, if I'm at work or I'm talking with somebody here in Texas, and they're like, "Well, you always have to keep it, even if you're agreeing that something that is getting bad out here." If it's not in a general aspect, I'd be talking to somebody who thinks that it's good to be walking around with an AK-47 to blow somebody's head off, right? Or some gun nut or some freak. Now, the reason that he thinks things are bad, much different from the reason that I think that things are bad, right? So you got to keep it just general because I'll do that. I don't want to get specific with you because if we get specific, I'm going to say some things that you won't want to hear. And then it might be some static, and it's like a powder keg, to be quite honest with you, a lot of people nowadays, right? So, you know, you got to keep it light, man. You got to look out for your best interest, man. I mean,
you got to play pickleball.
Hey, this is...
Mike, you brought it back around again. Yeah.
I was going to say that
I'm an influencer.
We're talking about solutions, and pickleball's right here. Pickleball is going to save America.
I was ahead of the curve. This man right here, this is my guy. He was ahead of the curve. I said, God damn it, shit, yeah. Woo! You caught it, man. You caught the wave, baby. I said, God damn, man. Hold up. Fuck the bull. No, forget the bullshit. I got one question for you. Who the fuck does your video production? And how the fuck you be getting all that shit out there? Your content be going crazy, man. How you do all that?
Hey, I'll tell you who does my video production. It's a black guy.
Oh my god!
And his name's Rod. His name's Rod Washington, and we used to do video production together in the early 2000s. So we would do weddings and shit like that. And so he still lives in Phoenix, and he's good at all the production stuff. You know, he just makes short films, and so I was telling Patrick, I just take my folding chair and my iPad, and I prop it up on the world's worst tennis courts, and I just shoot video, and then I send it to him. I go, make it look semi-decent, and he does, and you know.
Yeah, so, what the fuck is this dude doing?
Oh, shout out to Rod Washington.
Yeah,
this episode is dedicated to Rod.
Yeah, he's the guy. Of course, another black guy supporting a white guy, and I get all the props. But you know, change the world.
Just don't forget where you came from, Mike, of being the face of the Attack and Dethrone Godcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, listen. We can't bring this stuff up in pickleball circles. I'm starting to get things going here, so don't ruin my brand.
Oh no!
Yeah, I'm just waiting for Mike to be like, "Yo, we gotta pull all these episodes. I don't want to be associated."
Yeah,
with this
if you could just mute all of my stuff.
Like, there's just
one paddle sponsor away from that. One paddle sponsor.
That's it, right?
So here's what I'll just tell you. What I don't know if I told you this, but so when I was in Wisconsin, I had a woman contact me, who was a producer for a small production company that the former president of HBO used to work for. And so he started this production company. He hired a bunch of people he knew in the business. And so they're producing content for Apple TV. And she, who happens to be, she's Larry David's current wife. She contacted me because she saw one of my episodes, and she's like, "So I'm doing this documentary for Apple TV. I'd like to talk to you, and I've seen a couple of episodes and see what you're about a little more." And so she didn't know anything about the yurt or any of that stuff. So she called me, and then I talked to her for about a half hour, and. So, we start with the pickleball origin story. And I'm like, I was playing pickleball in Tahoe, but then I was like, I love this, but where am I going to play? I live in the middle of nowhere. Who's going to play this game? Turns out, long story short, there were people around here that played pickleball. So then I told her where I lived and how I lived. And then it really piqued her interest. She's like, oh my God, like, I want to see your yurt. I want to see you watching pickleball in your yurt. And so I'm like, yeah, it's great. Sure. And I'm thinking, there's no fucking way. Like, she's like, you're probably the last person I'm going to shoot him. We're almost done with this. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll be back in July. And she's like, okay. So, I contact her. I'm like, so I'm back. And she's like, okay, so it's probably going to be mid-July. So long story short, never heard from her again because I'm pretty sure A, she either found out what I talk about or B, she looked at a map and all the flights and rental cars she would have had to take just to get here to film 5 minutes of some guy at the end of some movie she's already got done, living in his yurt. So I
feel like it's the latter more than the former, but maybe.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
I would love to know that Larry David's wife was listening to this podcast. That makes me happy.
I'll send it to her.
Yeah, it's like, just so you know.
Her name's Ashley Underwood. So this is his second wife, and she's, I think she's quite a bit younger than him. Kind of sort of your typical sort of Hollywood deal. But I think they got married during COVID. They quarantined together, and it's like
what a romance, man! COVID romances.
Yeah. So,
all about that.
I was this close to hitting the big time.
You'll get there, man. Hit it next time.
Well, they would have given me like a shot. Oh, I would have woven in the doom into the whole.
Oh, sure, you have to.
I totally been like, so. You think this interview is really about pickleball,
huh? No, man, don't take the pickleball, man. Don't take the pickleball, man. That's your one.
I'll give you the real documentary, lady. Shit's all going down.
Oh man. Well,
pack your shit up. Time to get out of here.
My petroleum balls, my petroleum paddle,
man.
My nylon petroleum net.
Yeah.
It's coming down, baby. It's coming down.
It's coming down.
You're right here first. Oh, man.
Well,
no, man. But I mean, like, real biz, though, man. I mean, I check out all your videos, man. I was going to go in there and say, like, some doomer shit one time. Like,
So, hey, I just hit 500 subscribers, which allows me to do polling now. I can do polling, like, on my channel. But I need to hit. Patrick probably knows this with some of this stuff. I need to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need to hit 4,000 viewing hours to get monetized. And so, I think the subscriber thing will eventually happen. But God, 4,000—that's a lot of hours. Like I'm at 1,500.
I mean, for me, I use YouTube and I just put up segments, and I've made so many of them. Most of them don't get a lot of views, but like you make enough of them, eventually you'll get that many views, that many hours, that many subscribers, and then eventually you'll get monetized, and then eventually you'll make a penny.
4 cents.
4 cents a view. It's awesome. Before you know it,
you can come up. What's that kid's name? He used to be with the Young Turks. I do listen to his shit. He's funny. Hassan Piker.
Hassan, yeah.
That kid, man, he does that shit 8 hours a day, like 6 or 7 days a week. He starts like 11 and he goes like 7 at night.
Yeah.
Dude, there's no fucking way I could do that much talking, man.
Well, that's the thing. Like, we've talked about this, and it's like anything else. Like Patrick mentioned this earlier. You got to keep doing content. Like, Rod, he's like, do a fucking 1 minute thing and put it on TikTok a day, or put it on. I'm like,
oh yeah.
Oh fuck. That's like
it's
now it's
exhausting.
Starting to become like
it's
work. Like I was just doing once a week and I do an interview once a week. But now I'm like, now I got to get all these clicks, and I'm like, fuck, I'm going in it, man. I'm getting in it. I just, so we'll see where it goes.
You are walking away from Empire and you are walking toward content creation. Yes, you're walking toward TikTok. Like, good job. Like,
I know. What a fucking sellout.
It sucks. It's so stupid. I hate it.
Ever since I left Nature Bats Last, it's all gone to a shit show.
I know.
Should have never left. Should have stayed with that fucking weirdo. That would have been good move for you.
Yeah. No, man, I couldn't do it though, man. Every day, it'd be like
no fucking way. Yeah,
it's a job. Yeah.
Oh shit, man.
It's a job.
I mean, I like pickleball, but Jesus, what else is there? It's a very limited topic too. Like at least Doom, there's like all these. Pickleball. Yeah, I'm almost out of shit. I'm only 7 months into this. I've done all the It's so funny because people that see some of my videos are like, "That shit was in your book. You just changed Doom to pickleball." I'm like, I know. I'm out of shit.
That's it. Like you got the blueprint.
I did one about the story you tell yourself about yourself playing pickleball, and there's like, that's in your fucking book. I'm like, yeah, you think I I gotta make shit up every week.
That's so funny. Oh, you're plagiarizing your Doom shit to
I'm going through chapters. I'm like, oh, just put pickleball there. That's the same fucking thing.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
Chasing a different pickleball, whatever.
Oh god. Well,
fits anything, baby.
If anything,
one size fits all, baby.
That's right.
Well, I think we're all proud of you, Mike. I think
Thanks,
we're
dude.
doing great.
I
It's
feel
really,
love.
it's really good content for real. Like, no, it's like really
No,
good.
it
It's
is.
really well made, and I'm like, wow, okay, like who the fuck's doing that?
It's-
That's
I was like,
awesome.
man,
At this point, it's still
impressive.
fun, but
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes.
When it's not fun, you got to start thinking about not stopping, but like how to change it so it's fun still.
Here's the thing, and I have a colleague, former colleague. She's a principal now at a school, high school, and they have a media class. She's like, "What if I told my media class and they took on your channel as a project?" I'm like, "Yeah, I could have a TikTok person, a freaking
Oh my
Instagram
God.
person. Like they could just do all the
now
stuff.
you living large, baby.
Get some
I
interns.
film it. I send it out there to these, basically slave wages, no wages, and
Mhm,
like, yeah,
beautiful.
you guys are getting. You're all my interns. Good job.
They're gonna develop skills and they're gonna be
Yeah.
successful. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, so we'll see.
They're gonna
But
put
I'm
you-
already looking for maybe you can take over this. I just want to film it and then I'm done and it just blows up and they send me paddles.
You're
I
getting
want to see you
there.
on TikTok, Mike. I want to see you on TikTok.
Well, I'm on TikTok.
Are you on TikTok now?
Well, all I'm doing is taking a clip of my video and putting it on there.
Yeah,
I need somebody very clever to
Well, you need some more.
tell me you got to
something.
shoot it this way so it's on TikTok and it's whatever. But
Your like TikTok video of you plant or like watering pickleball plants or whatever was fucking hilarious. Like you just keep that up. Keep on doing that. Just be goofy.
that was I thought that thing would blow up, but my buddy Rod's like, "Yeah, dude, you can't shoot it this way. You got to shoot it this way."
It's
if you're gonna
it's a
fucking put it on
vertical.
TikTok."
It's
I'm like,
vertical.
"Oh."
I know.
See, I need a kid in high school to tell me that shit.
I know. Yeah. I mean,
That's too much work.
TikTok's weird. I don't like it. But
TikTok is weird, but God, man, I catch myself scrolling through this shit. I'm like,
oh,
"Holy
it
crap."
is the most addictive
Oh.
social media platform, which is why I deleted it because I'm like, this
Yeah.
is awful. Like it's
Yeah.
like it's like cocaine. It was ridiculous. I was like, what
It is. It's like
this?
Pez. It's just like
Black
one
magic.
more.
It's weird. I'm like, this is
It is
bad.
weird.
This is bad. This is bad news.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So,
I think.
Well, I think that's just really, really fair. I think that's like the attention span of like the modern 18 to 35-year-old, right? I mean, like
Yeah.
I remember my dad took me to see Gandhi when I was 10, right?
Yeah. Oh
And my mom was
God,
like,
I still didn't
yeah,
finish that movie.
yeah, that shit was long. So I sat there, I watched it with my dad. And I mean, I didn't understand certain parts of it, but I mean, I liked the movie. And I was like a little kid. I don't think an adult today, right? Average adult, American adult today has the attention span to actually watch that movie in its entirety. Yeah, definitely not
Not in one sitting. I don't
Yeah,
even.
definitely.
Fuck.
Yeah, it's hard.
I can watch the TikTok version.
Highlight reels.
Kingsley out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. And it's just kind of that like Gandhi doing it because it's the one motion all the time. It's like cover.
I mean, do
Well,
some CGI? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Got to be tight.
That's right.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
well, guys.
No, but yeah.
Oh, sorry. I just want to
no,
say.
go ahead, Chief.
I
Go
just.
ahead,
I
Chief.
want to wrap it up. I'm gonna wrap
Sure.
it up. Is that okay? You guys
Yeah.
good?
Yeah.
Nope.
I gotta walk home. It's dark.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
There's
it's getting
javelina
dark
here.
Yeah. It's about 7 here, so I'm gonna
I
wrap
gotta
it
say,
up.
it's really good seeing Rob.
It's great.
Yeah,
seeing
I
you all.
know.
Yeah, it is really good.
I was
seeing
going
you.
to say that myself, man. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
we
don't know
love
how
having
often
you
you
here.
can do this, but more than 2.5 years would be nice.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get back on soon for sure. It's great talking to you all.
Yeah, it's
man.
good to have you
It's
on,
really good
man.
seeing you, Chief. Really,
Yeah, it really
man.
was, man. It was a lot of fun, and yeah, it was really cool. Like having everybody on. I know Colin had to bounce early, but it was cool having everybody on. Like
Yeah, this is the
Yeah.
crew. This is the crew, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
the crew,
Yeah.
the band.
Moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
What a callback that was. Damn. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just say last thing with Rob, we met and then we did some collaborative interviews together. And so I've been,
That's right.
I've loved
Dar.
work.
Dar
Yeah. That was
Jamal, yeah, those
Dar
were
Jamal,
fantastic.
Shane Burley. We did 2 interviews in Portland together and went to Dar's book
That's
signing
right, that's
thing
right.
at Powell's book. Anyway, it was great. Like we worked really great working with you. And so I'm glad that we could do this again, Rob.
Quick question. What happened to Dar? I haven't seen him or anything from him in a minute.
Oh yeah, Dar's just living. He lives lives on the peninsula. I'll try to keep it vague enough. Olympic Peninsula. I mean, he says where he's from, but he lives on the
Yeah.
peninsula. I haven't heard from him in a few months because he's just hiking. Like he just takes advantage of the season. He's like, I'm gonna be in the mountains for months.
Good.
And everything else he does is basically farming, doing he has like huge, just amazing gardens, man. Just like this incredible garden. And he reads and he's writing books now. Like he published a book recently. And that's it. He's just like, I don't want to. He's kind of reminds me of Mike a little in the sense of like, I'm just stepping away for like, I don't have to, like, I've said everything I need to say about the climate. I'm good. Like I'll write about it. Yeah. Occasionally he'll write an article if he's asked to. But he's just chilling out. He's just like, I'm going to hang out with my friends.
What kind of book did he write?
He wrote that book with Stan Rushworth called We Are the Middle of Forever, or We Are in the Middle of Forever, in which they they interview a lot of indigenous people about what's going on, like how to adapt to climate crisis, from an indigenous perspective. So, yeah, I mean, that's what he's put out recently, and other than that, he's just living. He's a farmer.
I mean, I've calmed down a lot too. I'd say like out of all of my close friends, my journey mirrors Mike's. Because I remember how intense he was. I remember how intense I was back in the day.
Yeah. Sometimes I look back at that. I look back at some of that shit that I'll look at an article, it'll come up or something, and I read it. I'm like, whoa, like, I had like the fire hose to somebody's face, like,
yeah. I was there, man. I was there. Yep.
Like, hey, Captain Intensity.
I think there's a phase. I think we all go through the phase, and I think some of us come out on the other side and chill the fuck out a little bit.
I think you either implode or you get out of it. Yeah. There's no in between. You can't keep going hard like that.
Yeah.
Forever and a day, right? You're gonna implode or you
just take some sips and that's enough.
Yeah.
Jackpot.
We're all
We're in
like
the acceptance. We're in the acceptance phase right now, right?
I think because I think all of us here, to whatever degree, we did our part in saying, "Hey, this is happening, and this is why it's happening, and this is this is what's going to happen." And now we're going through it, so it's like, okay, that's it. I don't know.
And nothing brought me more joy recently than seeing my man Mike with the pickleball thing. Seriously. Yeah. I mean, like just seeing him just so joyous in it, man. I said,
it's so funny though.
And it's a fun trajectory, man, because like I do remember, like I know you. I first got introduced you from Guy's podcast.
Yeah.
You were pretty intense, and I was definitely like in that stage of like,
Mike's so badass,
man, like shit, like I was in that stage.
Yeah, like I know. I probably owe a fair amount of people apologies.
No, it's like I'm totally with Forrest on this. Like I love the evolution. I love like where you took it all, and
No, Bill, you got to reinvent yourself for your brand.
Yeah. Hold on, note this out.
Todd Ryman knows what I'm fucking talking about.
You got to do like you maybe could be a poetry influencer, Bill.
Right.
Yeah.
I think my new thing is now I'm an anti-social media influencer. Meaning like
that's the best.
I've noticed that like my influence really is dwindling. Like I have fewer and fewer friends. I get fewer and fewer likes. Yeah, I like it that way. Like I want it that way. Like I interact with Facebook differently than I used to. I don't argue anymore. It's like
I can't do that either.
No, can't do that. Like it's not changing anybody's mind. It's actually the opposite. Like which is true. Like anybody, you get to argue with anybody. Like what's the first thing you do when you get an argument is you just double down your own. Like no, like it's just pointless. And
I mean, to be quite honest, before we get off, I mean, I like talking with the people like you guys and the ones that are like my real friends in real time. More
like
so
10
than
10 people I care about. Yeah.
It's not a lot. It's not a lot, So, but no, I like this more than anything else, man. That's why I'm in my life. I like to just actually have interactions with the people I love, see them doing well, maybe talk about some social issues to keep it real, but not just be mired in that sadness, right?
Yeah.
You gotta go for it. But man, that's all I want to say, man. I just want to let you know, man. Love you guys. Glad that we're doing our thing, man. Having fun with this and the whole nine. I look forward to it each and every time. So
yeah, man, it's a lot of fun. I'll see y'all
soon.
I'll see y'all.
So-
I'll see y'all, but I'll see y'all next week.
All right. Well, it's
Sorry, a
good to
lot of
have you
annoying air
all.
quotes there. Apologize.
Yeah. Love you guys. It's good to have you all
Okay.
here.
Yeah. Miss you, Rob.
Yeah, I miss
Yeah,
you
man.
guys too.
Rob, definitely come back, man. Definitely come back, Rob.
Definitely
Yeah.
come back, sir. All
Will
right.
do. You all take care.